What's up, guys? We are on our 6th arsenal building video. Thank you everybody who sent in their arsenal so far. Apologies for not getting these out too quickly. These are honestly the longest videos that I create in terms of preparation time, so I'm very behind on arsenals. If you've emailed me an arsenal, I promise I will be getting to it. We're knocking out about 7 to 10 per video. We have a lot more to go, so please have some patience. If you sent in your arsenal, we will be making a video on it. Otherwise, enjoy these arsenals. Moving on to our next category, we have AJ, who is a lefty and a full roller. And we have some interesting bowling balls to talk about on this one. And then we're going to give a little bit of a talk on old bowling balls. But let's start with looking at things. Where do certain balls fit that we've already talked about? We see the hustle fitting in weak sharp, and then we always have the Venom Shock in the medium smooth category. I don't know if we've talked about any of these others on this list. So let's start off on the top. We have the OG Scorpion. The OG Scorpion was a hybrid bowling ball, except it was a little bit smoother. So I'm actually going to put that in front of the Venom Shock in the medium and smooth category. Next, we have the Spy. Now, unfortunately, I can't put this thing in the dumpster. Apologies. I'm not a fan of the plastic reactive bowling ball. So they do have a use, especially for a lefty, but that's definitely going to be a weak and sharp bowling ball, definitely on the weak side. Then we have the Knockout, the original Knockout. I'm gonna put that. The original Knockout was a little bit stronger. I think I'm gonna put that medium smooth. I think that's gonna be the best spot for it. Because that was really like a remake of the Melee series, is the Knockouts, hence the names Melee and Knockout. Now we're down to the old ones. Let's talk about the old bowling balls quick. So we have 3 bowling balls on here, which are all very old. The Black Widow Nasty, the Hammer Cold Blood, and the Columbia 300 Pure Swing. I had to look all of these up. We actually just had somebody in our pro shop bring an old Black Widow Nasty that they said they haven't thrown in 15 years. And he was right, because the ball came out in 2009. This ball can technically drive right now. It could get its driver's license. The Cold Blood was 2010. The Pure Swing, I believe, was 2013. All insane. I might have those flipped. All insanely old bowling balls. And at the end of the day, these are not going to react very well anymore because of many factors. One of them is cover stocks end up dying little by little. So if a cover stock is actually exposed to the air, the air actually gets into the cover stock and actually slowly depletes its strength. There's a lot more scientific ways of going at it that we won't get into. But because these bowling balls are so old and they've been left out, unless they've been like an airtight packaging, they are going to end up being pretty dead at this point. And also, they're so old, you can almost assume at times that they have a lot of games on them. They probably don't react very much. So that is why we're going to put all 3 of these in the weak and smooth category. That is going to be the best spot for them, because they really aren't going to react that much in today's game. Now, if these are original bowling balls that were in airtight packaging for the last 15 years in just a cryogenic chamber, the Cold Blood and the Pure Swing would be in the medium sharp category. Actually, all 3 of these would be in the medium and sharp category. They were all pearls. They were all middle of the road. However, they are, 15-ish years old at this point. So that is why they're all going to be in the weak and smooth category. So AJ, as a lefty, I would recommend replacing these 3 bowling balls, at least 1 or 2 of them, with something newer. You do have a lot of older bowling balls on this list that are probably going to be dying out soon. The Venom Shock isn't, but it's been out for a long time, so maybe it's an older Venom Shock. Otherwise, the M&M is the only ball that's still being produced on this list. So I would recommend checking out like an IQ Tour. The new Ebonite Turbo X could be really good for you. Something smoother, but as a lefty, still usable. So hopefully this helps. Apologies for kind of sitting on these older bowling balls, not being very nice to them, but a lot of very old bowling balls at the end of the day just won't be good in today's conditions, unfortunately. But with that, let's jump over to the next arsenal. We have an arsenal review for Casey today. Casey is a right-handed rev-dominant bowler who has low rotation but very high tilt. Now, there's a lot of bowling balls on this list, and there are some interesting bowling balls on this list. So let's get it going. We have a lot of overseas bowling balls to get through. So I did a lot of research before we started this one, but let's get it going. Let's put some bowling balls into categories where we know they fit from the past. Phase 2 of Vocus Terry. I love that combo, by the way. Really well done. We have a Pitch Black down in the urethanes. We have a High Road Pearl for the weak and sharp category. Anything else? We haven't really touched on anything else. So it's going to be a longer one. So let's get it going. First of all, the GOAT, the Venom Shock, that fits below the Phase 2. There's probably a pretty decent gap in there, but otherwise that's where I see it going. We have a black Venom. I see that after the Venom Shock, in all honesty. It's a little bit later, a little bit sharper is what I've noticed with that ball. Really good piece, though. The black Venom is really, really good. Next, we are on the Trident Nemesis. The Trident series is an older, strong ASIM series from Motive. I thought they were really good at the end of the day. A little bit weaker, though, compared to what they were supposed to be. So I'm going to have that after the Evoke Hysteria in that strong and sharp category. Next up, we have the OG Forza. The OG Forza. Oh, man, where is that going to go? That, I think, technically would fit here between the Venom Shock and the Phase 2. However, this ball is really old. Got to remember that. That's something we're going to keep in mind for all of these bowling balls. The older they get, the less they're going to hook. This thing probably could fall down to weak and smooth at this point, but we'll keep it where it is for now. Next up, we have the Raptor P7. The Motive Raptor P7 came out in the early 2010s. This ball actually has the highest differential that you can possibly have on a bowling ball at 0.60. So this is a problem that Motive had early on, where some of their bowling balls were actually higher than the legal differential limit, and they ended up getting banned. That was that original Jackal. That's what happened with that guy. Just had too much hook. So that almost put Motive out of business, by the way. Kind of interesting. But this ball would fit in the strong and sharp category. I think it actually would be the earliest ball on the list. Yeah, I think we're going to keep it there for now. However, because it is so old, like I mentioned, it could drop. The core, though, wants it to flare so much. So I think it honestly would still almost be a smooth bowling ball compared to a sharp ball. Next up, we have the Motive GT1. This ball came out in 2009. This is way too old to put anywhere else besides the weak and smooth category. That's kind of where it fit at the time anyway. Next up, we have the Columbia 300 Overseas Virus Hybrid. This thing basically is the Columbia 300 Baller from a couple of years ago. It has the same cover as the Dynamic Swing and the Baller, but then has a very, very strong core in it. So we're actually going to put that in the strong and smooth category, is really where that fits. It doesn't seem like it's that old of a ball either. Coming up next, the IQ Tour Dark Green, I believe is the name of it. Forest Green, maybe. This is the IQ Tour with a very, very weak pearl cover stock on it. Actually weaker than what's usually on it. It's a reactor cover stock, so it's going to go below the High Road Pearl. Usually a Pearl IQ would fit above the High Road series, in my opinion, but because of how weak this IQ Tour Green is, I think it goes after. Coming up next, the Marvel Max Purple, another overseas bowling ball. This one is that Marvel core. However, it has a NRG Pro, I believe, cover stock to it, Pearl Pro cover stock. So we're going to put it right smack dab in the medium and sharp category. Honestly, very close to the original Marvel Pearls at the end of the day. Maybe a little stronger cover stock than those guys. And now we're on a bowling ball that is made stateside. That is the Storm Dark Code. We missed the Dark Code. That thing was really good. We're going to keep the Raptor where it is. I think the Dark Code deserves to fit above the Evoke Hysteria and the Trident in terms of strength. I think the Dark Code hooks a little bit earlier than that Evoke Hysteria. That code core, the core in that ball is insanely strong. Next up, we have the Rotogrip High Wire. This is fun story with this one. This is a bowling ball that I wanted to buy when I first got into bowling. I love the colorways, and I just started bowling tournaments, and I noticed everybody was throwing Storm stuff. I only had Brunswick equipment, so I asked my uncle who owned a bowling alley who ran a very tiny pro shop, like, hey, can you order this for me? He ordered it and then said, I sold it. You're going to get this Brunswick ball instead. I was devastated. It was a very sad day. I really wanted to try throwing this. I could have actually owned a High Wire. I'm actually going to put the High Wire in front of the Marvel Purple because this High Wire hooked pretty early for being shiny. Next, Hyped Solid. Hyped Solid is definitely going to go in front of the GT1. GT1 we honestly should put way down here. We won't to make it look pretty, but the Hyped Solid is a weak and smooth bowling ball. It was the last HP2 solid bowling ball we've had in many, many years. RSTX2 is coming up next. That is actually going to also go in front of the Marvel series. That is a really weak cover, but a fairly strong core to it. It probably could fit on the edge of strong sharp and medium sharp. I'm going to put it in medium sharp for this time, though. But talking about strong sharp, we have the No Rules Pearl. The No Rules series was one of the better ASIM cores from Rotogrip for many years. You're going to see a lot of Rotogrip balls on this list. I was kind of interested to see that. Casey must really like Rotogrip. I see the No Rules Pearl as earlier than the Dark Code, though. I see it a little bit earlier, a little bit smoother than that Dark Code series. 2 bowling balls left. We have the Rubicon UC3. This was kind of supposed to be urethane. It wasn't, not even close. I think it actually hooks an absolute insane amount. So we're going to put that in the top of the strong and smooth category. This thing hooks super, super early, even though the core isn't that strong. Final bowling ball is the Rotogrip Attention Star, or Attention Line, I should say. Apologies. The Attention Line is just like the Attention series, but a stronger core on it. I'm going to put it at the end of the strong and smooth category, below the virus, but still up there because the Attention core is pretty big at the end of the day. So Casey, this is what you have right now. At the end of the day, a lot of these balls are really, really old. There's a lot of older bowling balls on this list to keep in mind. Your medium sharp category is a little bit older. Your strong sharp is looking pretty good, especially since you added that hysteria. Your strong smooth might be okay, depending on how old the Attention and the virus are. Weak and smooth, you're good. Weak and sharp, I actually like quite a bit with the High Road Pearl. But otherwise, medium smooth, you are set on the medium smooth category. So you might need a new medium and sharp bowling ball to replace something like the High Wire RST in case those end up dying out on you. But otherwise, you have a pretty well-rounded arsenal. You really like these strong and sharp bowling balls based on you being rev dominant with high tilt. This honestly is pretty decent. The high tilt's going to make your ball hook later. However, the low rotation is going to make it hook earlier. I think it all ends up fighting out to be kind of hook in a normal spot of the lane compared to everybody else. So hopefully this helps. Coming up is our next Arsenal review, and this time we are talking to Collin. Collin has low speed and high tilt, has a decent amount of bowling balls. We're going to scroll a little bit down so you can see all of those. So let's put things into the proper categories that we know them to be, and then try to find some ways that we can boost up this arsenal just a little bit. So looking at balls we've already talked about, Max Thrill Pearl is going to be a weak and sharp ball. We know the Optimum Idol is a medium smooth ball. We know the Nuclear Forge is in that strong sharp category. And then the rest we haven't really talked about. We have the Summit Peak. We're going to put that in medium sharp. We've talked about that one in the past. But the rest let's hit on. So starting off, we have the Electrify BSY. Now, Collin said the Electrify is actually his favorite ball on the list. So that one's really, really interesting because that is actually probably the weakest ball on this list. Kind of interesting. So that Electrify is going to fit below the Max Thrill Pearl, in my opinion. It's going to hook later, not really be sharper, but it's just going to be later and a little bit smoother, in my opinion. So I can already see Collin might like a lot of these weaker bowling balls, even though he's higher tilt. Higher tilt usually means your ball gets further down lane before it starts to hook, but the low speed might counteract that a little bit. But let's talk about the rest of the bowling balls quick. We see a Venom Shock on here. We see a Goat, and we're going to put that in the medium and smooth category below the Optimum Idol. That's the perfect spot for it. I think that's a great 1-2 combo. We have the Duo. The Duo was weird. The Duo technically is medium sharp, but it's really smooth. I think it hooks later than the Summit Peak a lot of the time, but it's just a heck of a lot smoother. The High Road Pearl coming up next. I am actually going to put the High Road Pearl after the Max Thrill Pearl, but before the Electrify BSY. The HRP it hooks pretty late, and it is an older ball at this point, so I think that's where it fits best. Finally, we have the Deadly Rattler. The Deadly Rattler technically is a medium sharp ball, but not by much. It's very much on the lower end. So, looking at the bowling balls Collin has, there's a couple gaps here. Stronger, smooth bowling balls. There really aren't many smooth bowling balls in general, just the Idol and the Venom Shock. But if Collin really likes this Electrify, that makes it a little bit interesting, where you have a lot of weak sharp options and you have a weaker medium sharp option. So that is awesome. I would then recommend maybe checking out more pearls. Maybe a different strong and sharp pearl would be good. One that gets a little further down lane, like an Attention Star, for example, might not be bad. Otherwise, maybe a weak and smooth ball could also work. Things like a Max Thrill Solid, things like an IQ Tour could be really good. Something around that range might be great for you to be able to pair with that Electrify BSY, especially as a league bowler, something that won't be as angular down lane. So Collin, hopefully this helps. Let me know if it does, but let's go on to the next arsenal. The next arsenal we have is from Geo. Geo has a weird mix of bowling balls, but kind of cool at the end of the day. It's a lot of motive balls, but a little bit of differentiation in here with actually only one bowling ball. One non-motive bowling ball is what I see now. So let's put some things that we've already talked about into their respective categories. Evoke Hysteria, the current Goat ASIM Pearl. We have the Jackal Ghost as a strong smooth ball. Have we hit Lethal Venom? We know is a medium smooth, one of the most underrated balls on the market right now. The Purple Tank is the only urethane that we have on the list. The purple is a true urethane, however, so it is the only urethane Motive has made in many years. So that definitely fits in that urethane category. I believe the purple was, or the blue, one or the other is a true urethane. But let's talk about the rest of them on the list. So we have a couple older ones, we have a couple newer ones. Let's start off left to right. We have the Motive Venom Cobra. This was a Venom that came out a long time ago, probably about 8 to 10 years ago at this point. Wasn't really well liked. It is definitely a medium and smooth bowling ball. It is very, very slow down lane. It's a little bit early, not as early as that lethal Venom, though. Next up, we have the only non-motive bowling ball on the list, and that is the purple solid reactive. That is a weak and smooth bowling ball, very, very weak ball because it has that purple hammer core in it, which is insanely, insanely weak. One of the weakest in the game right now. Next up, the Top Thrill Hybrid, not the Max Thrill Hybrid, but the Top Thrill Hybrid. I am actually going to put this Top Thrill in the weak and smooth category right before the Purple Hammer. Now, the Top Thrills were way different than the Max Thrills, in my opinion. The Max Thrills are really good at actually hooking earlier and being a little bit sharper down lane. The Top Thrills didn't want to hook as early, but also weren't as angular down lane. They're a little weaker, but a little smoother. So the Hybrid's going to fit in that weak and smooth slot. Next up, we have the blue coral, the good old blue coral. This thing was really good, in my opinion. I wish we had another one like it right now, but we do have the lethal, which is a heck of a lot earlier. I'm actually going to put the blue coral right after the lethal, and then we're going to go the Venom Cobra right after it, partially because of age. The Venom Cobra is much older, so it's going to hook a lot later and be a lot more dead down lane. Ooh, this is a fun one. The limited edition Motive T10. Motive released a very limited quantity of these T10s, which were, oh man, where is it going to fit? It was a medium and smooth bowling ball. I know that for sure, but I don't know if it's going to fit in front of that lethal or not. I think it actually is going to go right after the lethal, but it's going to go before the blue coral and the Venom Cobra. This ball isn't as old. I believe it's like 5-ish years old. It was really good. It was an all black Motive bowling ball. They don't make all black bowling balls almost at all. The black Venom is one of the only ones. So I think that's really where it's going to fit. Finally, we have the Villain Scorn. The Villain Scorn is going to go after the Evoke Hysteria. I believe the Scorn was the hybrid version. The Villain Core wasn't as weak as some other ASIMs, but it also wasn't angular down lane. It was later than the Evoke in my opinion, but also smoother. So this is where I'm seeing everything that Geo has right now. Of course, we have a couple of gaps that we can see right off the bat in the medium and sharp category and the weak and sharp. Right now, Geo only has 2 pearl bowling balls, a lot of hybrid bowling balls, and a couple solids. So what I would recommend is a pearl bowling ball to fit with these. I know you like some of the Venoms right now, so maybe a Hyper Venom could fit really well, or even the Primal Rage Evolution would fit fantastic in this medium and sharp category to go below something like a Lethal Venom. I think the Lethal Venom into the Primal Rage are a fantastic wombo combo. Otherwise, you could go with a weak and sharp ball, like a Max Thrill Pearl could fit really well there if you need something that weak. But I think you kind of have that covered with the weak and smooth category. So I would just recommend that medium sharp category, and then you're good to go, Geo. Moving on, we have the greatest name on our Arsenal review so far. We have Zack with a good amount of bowling balls, mainly Storm brands, a little bit of Hammer snuck in here, but a lot of newer bowling balls. So we'll be able to go pretty quick with this one. We'll put a couple bowling balls in the categories that we already know them to be, that we've already talked about in the past. So we have the IQ Ruby, we have a Black Widow Mania, which is awesome. We have an Absolute Power, which fits in the medium smooth. Otherwise, the rest, I think, well, we've talked about the Journey. That's a medium and sharp bowling ball. Really good ball, by the way. I just drilled one. It rolls really well. All right, but then we have 4 other bowling balls. So at the beginning of the day, at the end of the day, beginning and whatever part of the day you're in, you have every category covered. Nice job, Zack. You did fantastic. It's probably because of that awesome name you have. But looking at the rest of the bowling balls, let's put these into where they should be. We see a Harsh Reality Solid. In my opinion, the Harsh Solid does hook earlier than the Ion Max. I think they're very close, but I think the Harsh Solid fits before the Ion Max. The Harsh is also better from straighter, where the Ion Max actually can hook from a little bit deeper. Let's stay in that train and put the DNA on here. Now, the DNA was supposed to be the biggest hooking bowling ball that Storm made. It wasn't. The cover stock was a lot weaker than everyone expected, so it actually goes after the Ion Max. So you have a really good, strong, and smooth category here of 3 different ball reactions. Really, really cool on that front. Moving on, we have a DNA Coil. This is an interesting one. I think these 2 bowling balls are kind of close in terms of strength. I think the Mania is going to be a heck of a lot sharper, but I think the DNA coil is going to be smoother. Oof, man, this is going to be tough. I'm going to do this. I'm going to put the DNA coil in front of the Black Widow Mania because I think the DNA coil hooks a little bit sooner than that Mania. Finally, we have the Fate and the Journey. Look at that. I'm going to put the Fate after the Journey, although the Fate is actually smoother than the original Journey. They have the same core, different cover stocks, but I think that Journey hooks earlier and is a little bit sharper than that original Fate. The Fate was okay at times for a lot of people, other people not as much. I wasn't a big fan of it. One of my tournament teammates adores this bowling ball. But let's look at what you have right now. Like I mentioned, every category covered. You have a few more pearls than solids, which is okay, especially if you're a league bowler. You almost have a perfect one-to-one mix, though, and you have a few more stronger balls compared to weaker. That should be okay. I don't know if all three of these bowling balls are going to be needed compared to having like 2 medium and smooth bowling balls. So if you do get something else, I would recommend a symmetrical solid ball because right now you have the Ion Pro and the Absolute Power, which are both ASIMs. So you only have asymmetrical solid options, or dull options, I should say, not solid specifically. But I would recommend getting some kind of symmetrical solid to fit alongside these. That could be an IQ Tour, a Summit Ascent, a Phase 2, a Rockstar, something like that. Otherwise, none of these bowling balls are really too old that you need to replace. I think the oldest one on the list is probably the Fate or the DNA, which really aren't that old. So honestly, at the end of the day, nice job, Zack. Maybe if you get one more symmetrical solid, you're going to be home free. Next person up is Darrell, who is speed dominant. We have a couple weird ones in this list. So I see a Theorem. We'll put that in strong sharp. I see an original Summit in the medium smooth territory. Sub-Zero Forge we know is strong smooth. I see an Arctic Vibe, which is always weak smooth. And I see an IQ Ruby, which is always weak and sharp. Now we have a couple interesting ones coming up. We're going to save these first two for the end. We have a Summit Ascent coming up next. That comes well after the medium smooth. It should go like right there compared to the Summit because they are very different bowling balls, even though the Summit Ascent is a solid of the group. The Atlas Hybrid definitely comes before the Theorem Pearl, definitely well before the Theorem Pearl in terms of hook. And the Black Widow comes after the Sub-Zero Forge. So now let's look at the weird ones. We have an original Virtual Gravity, which came out in the early 2010s, and we have a Hypercell Skid. Now, the Hypercell Skid was in this strong and sharp category, and I think it will technically fit right about there if it's in okay condition, but the ball is 15 plus years old at this point, so I don't know how it's going to react. Same with this Virtual Gravity. The Virtual should technically be right here between the Sub-Zero and the Black Widow, but this ball is a billion years old and it might be too oil soaked to actually hook in that part of the lane, so it very much could come after it. But this is where we're at right now for you, Darrell. You said you're speed dominant, which is a-okay, so you have the top part of your lineup pretty well covered right now. The only thing I would recommend is something in this medium sharp category. Looking at what you have a lot of Storm and a lot of Brunswick, so you could go like a Scorpion Strike, a Zen 25, an Optimum Pearl, something like that could fit in that medium and sharp slot, so it could fit right below your Theorem or right below your OG Summit. Otherwise, it doesn't look too bad. Hopefully you take these tips and let me know what new ball you get next if you do. Moving on to our next arsenal, we have Deghen, who is coming in as a Rev dominant bowler. That's all we've got of Deghen. So we have a couple interesting bowling balls. Let's throw them in the categories that we know they already fit in for some of their cases. So Gem we've seen as strong smooth. Phase 2 is definitely a medium smooth. We've talked about the Physics Blackout being strong and sharp. We have a Pitch Black as the Thane banging. We have a Hustle AU. We haven't actually talked about that one, so we'll keep it back. We know the IQ is a weak and smooth ball. Otherwise, the rest we'll discuss. So, starting off, we have the Zen U. This is the Zen, actually a modified Zen core. It's kind of interesting. It didn't really have much to do with the Zen. It was a modified Zen core with a urethane cover stock. It hooks later than the Pitch Black, but it's going to be a little bit sharper. That's going to be like a microcell polymer ball at the end of the day. Hustle AU, this is one of the very old hustles. This is in a bad line of hustles. This was like with the 3TP, I believe. They were not very good compared to the modern day Hustles. The Hustle M&M is eons better than both of them. This gold one was just very wonky for a lot of people. You really had to play straight with it. That's going to definitely be a weakened sharp ball. We have the TNT. The TNT technically was supposed to hook later than the Phase 2. It definitely hooked earlier and was a heck of a lot smoother. That TNT loved to play straight. It did not like angle, though. The Phase 2 likes angle a lot more. Finally, DNA coil, that's definitely going to go after the physics blackout. The physics blackout is arguably the strongest strong sharp ball in existence right now because it has that massive core and it comes sanded. So it's supposed to kind of bridge a gap between strong smooth and strong sharp. So Deghen, who is rev dominant, has a little bit of everything right now. Honestly, looks pretty good right now. The only wreck I would have is maybe a medium sharp ball. You don't have anything in that kind of stronger middle of the road symmetrical pearl line. And then this Hustle AU is probably on its last leg at this point. It's probably 5 to 10 years old at this point. So you might need to get a new weakened sharp ball. The Hustle M&M will be the closest replacement for you. Otherwise, as a rev dominant bowler, hopefully this helps. You got a nice little otherwise culmination of everything. But let's go on to the next arsenal. Our next arsenal is John. John doesn't have any stats about himself. That's a-okay. Let's look at the bowling balls that John has and see where they're going to fit. Let's scroll a little bit down so we can see all of the bowling balls. There's a lot more normal ones on this one, some pretty basic ones that we've talked about before. We have a couple of our top 5 of 2024 bowling balls. We have a black hammer down here in the urethanes. We've talked about the Vibo as a strong and sharp option. Other things, the My Goat, the low flare as a medium smooth ball. And then the rest I think we'll have to get into. We'll start with the Tundra Fire. This one's pretty easy. It was just the predecessor of the Blue Fire. I don't know why they just changed the color. I think they added HK22 to it, if I remember right. That's definitely going to be a weak and sharp option. Next up, Power Torque. This ball sucked. It didn't suck, I should say. That's not accurate. It was just very, very smooth. Very, very smooth. That was the beginning of the Columbia 300 remake series. That's going to come before the Scorpion Low Flare, though. Black Widow Mania, I see that as a little bit later than the Vibo, but they kind of hook in similar parts of the lane. The Mania is just a lot more angular when it starts to hook. The very end of the Strong and Sharp will be the Theorem. The real time is going to come before the Scorpion Strike in the symmetrical pearl category because it isn't a pearl, it's a shiny solid. So it fits earlier, it's going to be smoother. Pure Envy, I'm going to put before the strong and smooth Mesmerize up top. We have a Hammer Effect. Oh man, I might switch up where these all go for a second. I'm going to move those. We're going to put the Effect on top. We're going to put the Mania right behind it, actually, and then the Vibo. I like that a little bit better, actually. I like that a little bit better, where we go Effect, Mania, Vibo, Theorem. These three hook in very similar parts of the lane, though. Obsession Tour, that's going to come earliest in our medium and smooth category. This is basically what the Effect Tour is at the end of the day. Nearly the same ball. And then finally, we have the Extreme Envy. That is, in my opinion, the earliest hooking bowling ball on the market, or was at the time. May it rest in peace. So, John, this is what we've got for you. You have a very well-rounded arsenal, actually, at the end of the day. The top half of your arsenal, you have at least 2 bowling balls in each category. That is perfect. Weak and smooth, you might not need. That's usually the least used category on this list. And then weak sharp, you have a Tundra Fire, so that's more of a bailout ball. You have a urethane if you absolutely need it. So I don't really have any recommendations. Your medium smooth category, a couple of those balls are a little bit older, but it seems like Obsession Tours never die. So you might not have to worry about that. Otherwise, I mean, I really like this arsenal at the end of the day. I don't have many recommendations. Watch out for those older bowling balls, and then maybe a weak smooth ball if you feel like you need it. Or since it looks like you're pretty much primarily Brunswick, your only option is Arctic Vibe. If you want to go a different company, the IQ Tour is out there. Otherwise, hope this helps. Next arsenal up, we are on Johnny, who is a one-handed balanced lefty. So we have some weird bowling balls in this one too. So we're going to save those to the end. There's some very old ones, but let's start out with the things that we know where they fit. So IQ Ruby is a weak and sharp ball. Vibo, strong sharp. We have a Sublime in the medium sharp. I'm actually going to zoom in just a little bit. I think we're almost in the same spot that we were. Hopefully you guys can see that. Okay, Revenant we saw is a weak and sharp ball. I'm going to put it after the IQ Ruby. Phase 2 we know is a medium smooth. What else do we have? Everything else I think we'll wait on, and then we'll just put it in the right category. So we have a Storm Absolute coming up next. This actually hooked earlier than the Vibo, but it was super, super weird. So that was an oddball. We're going to put it there though. Envy Pearl. This was an overseas bowling ball. This was the cheap ball of the year from Bowler's Mart. I see it after the Vibo and the Absolute. That ball hooks very, very late, much later than I would have ever expected. Next up, we have a Zen. That's going to go in the medium sharp category in front of the Sublime. The Sublime is very close to the Zen. However, the Zen does hook a little bit earlier. But then we have the OG Hazmat. I see the OG Hazmat coming after the Sublime and after the Zen. It's very close to the Sublime at the end of the day. I think they're very similar bowling balls. But then coming well after those is going to be the Phase AI. That's definitely going to hook the latest of all of those balls. I see an Eternity Pie. That's going to go in the Strong Smooth. And then we have these two. We have a Motive Cruel Intent from like 2014. And then we have an OG Mutant Cell. These ones are odd. Again, they're very, very old, so they're going to be definitely oil soaked at this point. I think we're going to put both of them inside of the medium smooth category because of where they're going to, because of how old they are and where they're going to hook. I don't think this mutant cell should go here. This should probably go in the strong category. Actually, we'll do that. We'll put it up here in the strong category. We'll put the cruel intent right below the phase 2. Those two are kind of question marks, but overall, at the end of the day, as a lefty, this isn't too bad. You might want a few more smoother bowling balls because as a lefty, you want things that are smoother. So like an OG IQ could fit here. Otherwise, like a Summit Ascent because it looks like you have a lot of storm stuff. Other options, Game Breaker 5 could work. Otherwise, with those, more smooth balls will be good. You probably don't need your shiny ones as much as a lefty, but otherwise not a bad arsenal so far. Few additions and you'll be good to go. And our next arsenal is from Pete. Pete is a rev dominant, very low tilt bowler with a very, very unique arsenal. This is going to be one of the most unique arsenals we've seen today. Let's put a couple bowling balls into the categories that we know already that they fit in. We know the purple is a urethane ball. We know the radioactive is weak and smooth. Have we hit any of these? Pure Madness we know is strong and smooth, and that is really about it. So let's go through the rest of these. There are some oldies on this list, so be ready. First of all, Teal Rhino Pro. That thing hooked super late, but is definitely a weak and smooth bowling ball. Definitely comes before the radioactive by a little bit. Next one up is the Quantum Bias Pearl. The Quantum Bias was that old Brunswick ball that was all white. The thing hooked at your ankles. Then they made a pearl version of it, and it's still hooked at your ankles, but it was actually more angular down lane. So we're going to put that in the strong and sharp category, kind of like where a Physics Blackout would fit. We have a Radical Breakaway coming up next. That's going to be a medium and sharp bowling ball. Pretty middle of the road RG and differential on a pearl cover stock. Conspiracy Scheme. The Conspiracy line was really good for Radical. I'm going to put that after the Quantum Bias line, but it's still going to be very, very smooth. Closer Pearl. The Closer series was what the Sneak Attack series is, or the Counter Attack series from Radical. Very, very weak Radical bowling balls in their weakest line. This is a line that hasn't really been filled by Radical in a minute. Messenger Solid. Messenger Solid is going to be a weak and smooth bowling ball also. Man, where does that fit? I think it's going to go Teal Rhino into Messenger. I think that Teal Rhino hooks a little bit earlier, but really, these three bowling balls are going to be pretty similar at the end of the day. Speaking of Sneak Attack, we have a Sneak Attack coming up next. They weaken the cores, I believe, on the Sneak Attack between that and the Closer. So we're going to put that after the Closer. So overall, Pete, who is rev dominant with a low tilt, you have a lot of very, very weak bowling balls. Makes sense as a rev dominant guy. However, out of this list, I don't think any of them are in production anymore. Yeah, none of them are in production anymore but the Purple Hammer. There's a lot of oldies on this list. I believe this Quantum Bias Pearl came out like before COVID, if I'm remembering correctly. The Closers, I think, might have been around COVID time or a little bit before. So there's a lot of older bowling balls that you'll have to watch out for when they get oil soaked a little bit and you'll have to replace them. The strong sharp category is probably going to be the first one you need to replace because the Conspiracy Scheme is also a little bit older. Otherwise, you don't have any medium smooth bowling balls. You don't have the most for smoother bowling balls. You do have the Teal Rhino, Messenger, and Vibe, but if there's a little bit of oil, those might not hook very much and they'll act like sharp bowling balls. So you might need a medium smooth ball to pair with those. Since it looks like you're a Radical and a Brunswick fan, you might want to look towards something like a Troublemaker Solid in this category. Next arsenal up will be Roe, who is a two-handed lefty who is rev dominant. Not a very big arsenal, so we should be able to fly through this one a little bit. We have an IQ AI, we have an Ion Pro, we have the Jackal Onyx, we have a Thrill Pearl, apologies. We have a Hammer Effect, we have an IQ 78, which we know where that goes, and we have 2 bowling balls remaining. So overall already, very well-rounded arsenal. Almost have every single category covered. We know the EJ Venom is actually medium smooth. You have every category covered. Congratulations. There we go. All right. Every category is covered, which is awesome. We have 1 bowling ball remaining. That is the Attention Spot. The Attention Spot is a Micro Tracks version of the original Attention Star. Hooks earlier than a star, but it's not going to hook as early as that effect. So overall, very well rounded for having 7 bowling balls or 8 bowling balls, perfectly covering every single category. Very well done. Since you said you're lefty and two-handed, you might want another smooth bowling ball to pair with these, but you have Onyx into Venom into Ion. Honestly, a really good 1-2-3 combo. And then I always hate the IQ 78 at the end of the day, but if you like yours, that's awesome. If you need a different one, make sure to check out the Pitch Black or the Purple Hammer. Otherwise, very, very well rounded. Nice job.